10 crucial fragrance tips that you should be following so you don't do what I did and spend like $7,000 on fragrances and you only wear like 5 of them maximum. Tip 1 is take what content creators say with a grain of salt. Yes, that might sound hypocritical because here I am as a fragrance content creator literally telling you what to do. But when you're looking at a new fragrance to buy, when you're listening to fragrance advice from these big creators, Jeremy Fragrance, this weirdo FB Fragrances, the Cologne Boy, Fragrance Knowledge, all of these amazing guys and girls, please just keep in the back of the mind that at the end of the day, everyone has a different nose, everyone has very different fragrance tastes. Even if you feel like you really connect with a particular fragrance influencer, please be extremely careful. And at the end of the day, it's your own nose, it's your own money. Make the decision based on your own merits and what you truly think. Please, just promise me that. Pinky promise right now. Fragrance tip 2 is one that I only recently discovered. Stop applying your fragrance by spraying it right under your nose like that, on the front of your neck. Because during the day, it is simply gonna, 1, probably irritate your nose, increase the likelihood of you just sneezing throughout the day. But the main one is that it's really hard to tell how strong your fragrance is, how strongly it projects, because by spraying your fragrance there, it is gonna block your nose for the rest of your day. It is gonna make you be extremely sensitive to the fragrance, and it is gonna make you go nose blind. Nose blind basically means your nose just stops smelling the fragrance because it's so overwhelmed by the smell. And now that you're nose blind, you don't know how strong it is. There's a good chance you're going to want to apply more because you think no one else can smell it. But it's just simply your nose literally freaking out and shutting down. I used to think my allergies were way worse than they actually are because I would always apply my fragrance like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I keep it as far away from my nose as possible when I spray it on, and I highly recommend you do the same. Unless you want to sneeze, go nose blind and not be able to test the performance of your fragrance. Just please stop doing it. Fragrance tip 3, arguably the most crucial one in this entire video. Please, for the love of God, stop paying retail for your fragrances. It honestly depends a lot on the brand. Some brands you can get some crazy deals online. Some other brands like Dior, major brands, Valentino, Dior, they're a lot harder to get discounted. But no matter what, when you're looking at a new fragrance, do your research first because there is a 95% chance you can find a much better deal online than the price of what it is in store. In terms of good, reputable, reliable fragrance discounters, if you live in Australia, I usually shop at Essential Perfumes. They are the best, especially for Parfums de Marly. They sell fragrances like PDM Layton for $330 instead of the $450 to $500 retail price tag. Also, the Australian fragrance Facebook marketplace, if you can buy them secondhand, just be very careful with who you're working with, but you can secure some crazy details on there. If you live in the US, check out Joma Shop, fast shipping, a huge range. And if you live in Canada, Fragflex, use code FB10 for 10% off as well, link in bio. Any of those and you'll be sorted. I forgot to mention, if you live in the UK, apparently Aura Fragrances is really good, but I don't have as much experience with UK retail discounters. If you live in the UK and want to give some recommendations to everyone watching, chuck it in the comments now. Help everyone out. Tip number 4 is adapt the mindset of quality over quantity when it comes to fragrances. This is the biggest mistake that I made when I first started collecting, and is the reason I own around 2 dozen fresh, cheapy fragrances that all essentially achieve the same thing. This is because I wanted to bolster how big my collection looked, when in reality I should have been saving up for fragrances that I truly loved, that I was truly passionate about, because in reality you only need one cheap freshie for the gym for a dumb reach when you just want to spray something, cheap and cheerful on. For me, I always go for Mont Blanc Legend Spirit. I don't even reach for these other ones that I have. I recommend you try a bunch and just pick one cheap freshie. Once you have that cheap freshie, save up for more expensive, higher end designer and niche fragrances that you truly love and have a connection with. You don't need a whole bunch of cheap, crappy fragrances. I promise you, you're just gonna regret it. Tip number 5 is a very controversial one, but I truly believe that fragrances don't really have seasons. Yes, the typical, mindset of fresh, clean scents work the best in high heat, and then dense vanilla sweet fragrances work the best in cool weather. Yes, I see the logic in that, I get it. However, the longer I wear fragrances for, the more fragrance types I try, I realize that you can use pretty much any fragrance type you want in any weather. The one caveat to this is simply if you are going to use a very heavy and sweet fragrance in slightly high heat, just tone down the number of sprays. If you find you usually do 5 sprays with Naxos in the winter, when it comes around to summer, you don't have to go put it away in the closet for 4 months and then come back to it later. You can keep wearing it. Just maybe cut the sprays in half. Go with 2 or 3 sprays. I promise you, no one except us fragrance snobs even really know that different fragrances have different seasons. Wear whatever you want, just be respectful with the number of sprays you've been doing. Personally, I'm not a big fan of fresh, clean, green fragrances. I never have been. Even something like Parfums de Marly Greenly, which is a really, really good summer fragrance that I really like. I'm taking something like Xerjoff Naxos, Parfums de Marly Eau Jaune any day over Greenly. Even in the high heat, I will just wear these and just lower the number of sprays. That is why the majority of my collection is wintry, sweet fragrances, even though I live in Australia, one of the hottest countries in the world. Just be respectful and mindful of the number of sprays you're doing, and it's fine. No one cares, I promise you. Tip number 6 is do not dismiss dupe and clone fragrances just because it maybe feels slightly wrong about buying something that's cheaper, that smells the same as something higher end. Don't even worry about it. If you're on a budget, you should have no shame with buying dupe fragrances because there are so many incredible ones out there these days, especially from these incredible Arabian brands like Lattafa. Oh my god, we love Lattafa here. Lattafa Khamra, there's a reason I own 3 bottles of this and not a single bottle of Kilian's Angel Share, because this clone I actually prefer to Angel Share. It has its own little twist on it, and that's the nice thing about the dupes. A lot of the times you can get one that are around 80% the same, but they have their own little kind of twist to it. Honestly, you can get some insane value fragrances in 2024. You don't have to stick with Nautica Voyage if you only have 20 bucks. You can go for Afnan 9PM, a great dupe of Jean Paul Gaultier. Ultramel, for example. Dupes, clones are taking over whether you like it or not, so you might as well jump on board now. I was reluctant to do that for a few months, but now I'm head over heels with dupes. I don't wear them a lot, but when I do, I always have a great time wearing them. And honestly, if I find a dupe that I like just as much as the original, I'm gonna save the money and shamelessly buy the dupe every single time. Tip number 7 is to consider stop using Fragrantica when it comes to fragrance research, looking at fragrance notes, finding out what fragrance to buy, and instead use a website called Parfumo. They both are quite similar, however Parfumo is less popular. However, I find the reviews, the critics of the fragrances are more reputable, they put more effort into their reviews, and there's a lot less trolls on Parfumo. Sure, if you want to look up the SpongeBob cologne and you want to have a laugh, go on Fragrantica, but if you are serious about purchasing a new fragrance and you want to know the nitty-gritty details, you want some real fragrance snobs breaking down the opening to the dry down of a fragrance, Parfumo is going to be your best bet, and really I haven't looked back since I discovered it. The main reason I prefer Parfumo is that they do a number scale to rate the fragrance, the performance, the smell. They go from 1 to 10 as opposed to breaking it down to 5 categories. Like for example, on Fragrantica, longevity will be based on, weak, moderate, strong. Whereas Parfumo, it'll just be rated out of 10. And as someone that is super stat heavy, I love my numbers. I'm taking Parfumo every time. I recommend just, looking at both. And finding which one you prefer. But if you haven't heard of it yet, at least just check out Parfumo. For me, it was kind of life-changing, I'm not even gonna lie. Tip number 8 is when you get a new fragrance and you're not sure about how strong it is, how it's gonna work with your skin, go for 5 sprays. I find 5 sprays with 80% of fragrances in my collection and fragrances that I've owned and tried works the best. I don't know what it is about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm telling you guys, that spray routine side, behind each ear, 1 behind the neck, 5 sprays, there's a 80% chance that will be the perfect sweet spot to get compliments but to not overwhelm everyone else. I really don't have a lot of logic behind this one. It is just through trial and error I've discovered that for me at least, 5 sprays is perfect. I know some people, for example, Omar from School of Scent, amazing content creator. However, I do think he's a criminal undersprayer. He usually goes with around 3 sprays for most fragrances. However, I found that 3 sprays only really projects for around the first hour, whereas 5 sprays, it just works a lot better. Any more than 5, it's pretty rare that I'll do, except if it's really, cheapy, fresh, clean, like Nautica Voyage, I'll just do, unlimited because it's so weak. But for most, major popular designer and niche fragrances, go for 5 sprays and tell me how it went after. I guarantee you're gonna love it. Tip number 9 is to stop worrying so much about what the perfume concentration is. You've probably heard of the terms EDT, eau de toilette. EDP, eau de parfum, parfum, extrait, but what do they actually mean? They are essentially the percentage of perfume oil used in a fragrance. For example, this one is Dior Sauvage EDP. It also has an EDT concentration and a parfum concentration. Now, a lot of the fragrance clerks will tell you when you walk in, when you ask about, which one I should buy, they will recommend you the parfum or the extrait of a particular fragrance range. Why do they do this? Well, it's an easy selling point for them. They can say it's a parfum, so it is the strongest in the range. That's going to make you want to buy it. It also usually costs the most amount of money, so they'll be making the most commission from you. However, be very careful with this, because perfume oil and how strong the perfume, the percentage of the perfume oil used isn't always the number one determinant of how strong a fragrance is. The quality of ingredients, the ingredients used specifically, the blend, there are so many things. There are so many things that also make a difference to how strong a fragrance is, not just the perfume oil. For example, Dior Sauvage EDT, at least on my skin, is significantly stronger than the EDP and the parfum. The parfum does last the longest, but in terms of projection, the EDT is actually the strongest. So just be careful. Don't just purely look at the concentration to determine how strong a fragrance is. There are a lot of extrait and eau de parfum fragrances from different brands that are extremely weak and they don't last a long time. And then there are EDTs, like Dior Sauvage EDT, that last for hours and hours on end. So take that as you will. The final tip on this list is actually my favorite and probably the one I'm so excited to talk about, because I've never really heard anyone say this, and that is, we need to stop thinking we're gonna find our signature fragrance or that concept even truly exists. The chance of you finding a signature scent that you'll wear for the rest of your life, that will be your favorite perfume or fragrance for the rest of your life, is something we shouldn't even really be thinking about. I think it's just a silly concept in general. I mean, for example, I was so sure that MFK Grand Soir would be my signature scent for life. Turns out this was only my favorite fragrance for around 5 or 6 months, and now I'm loving Initio Side Effect, and there's a chance that this will be my signature scent for the next 6 months. But what's the chance that I'll find a fragrance and love it so much that it will be my favorite forever and that I'll be wanting to wear it every day for the rest of my life as my signature scent? I would say it's 0% chance. And I think when you're looking for a fragrance, you shouldn't be putting that kind of pressure on the fragrance. You shouldn't be thinking it should be so good that you can see yourself wearing it forever and that you can see it as your signature scent. You should be wanting to try a big variety of fragrances. I actually recommend having lots of different samples in your fragrance collection, so you can just find out what you like, learn more about what you like, because the fragrance that you love when you're 20 will probably not be the same one you love when you're 65 years old. It just doesn't make sense. I kind of think about it the same as like having a favorite food. At least for me, I've never had a favorite food for more than around a year, because my taste buds change, my preferences change. It is the exact same with your nose. If your favorite food is Ben & Jerry's ice cream when you're 14, do you really think Ben & Jerry's ice cream is going to be your favorite when you're 65 years old? It's the same with fragrances and perfumes. Stop putting that type of pressure on a new fragrance purchase. If you like it, buy it, wear it, enjoy it, but don't think that it's going to be your signature scent or something that or even you should be looking for a signature scent for life, especially if you're so young. Just come on, there's no point, there's no reason for it. That is going to wrap up this video on 10 crucial fragrance tips that I wish I knew sooner. I really hope this video helped you out. I loved making it. If you want more videos similar to this, or you have any different video ideas, please comment them down below right now. And if I like the video enough, I will 100% do the video and give you credit. Have a great rest of your day. Like, subscribe, tick the bell for notifications. It is completely free and it helps me out a lot. I'll catch you guys in the next one.